Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters, and here we're taking a look at Brycen-Man and Zoroark, who should be dropping tomorrow, right? Yes, we got Brycen-Man dropping on the 30th of April, alongside part 2 of the special costume event, the infamous Pokestar villains, and then Mixed Blue afterward, and then Bell Elba on the 2nd of May. So yeah, pretty normal stuff here so far. And well, it's great that we finally have Brycen-Man in the game, right? Bryson has needed an alt for a while, right? Alongside so many other characters, gym leaders and Elite Four members. And well, he finally got one. And also, of course, Sabrina got her alt after a while too, since New Year's 2022, I think. Crazy. Anyway. So, this guy is a tech Dark Sync pair, and he definitely does some unique abilities that differentiate himself a lot from other Dark characters. I do think he has some downsides, but I also do think he has a lot of good things about him, and a lot of things that may be underrated, but we'll go ahead and look at the kit. So, he drops on April 30th, leaves May 20th, giving you pretty much 3 weeks to pull for him, as usual for any new Sync pair. He's got the Tech roll with the Special Strike EX roll. He's a Dark type with the Fighting weakness, and he's got, of course, the basic theme skill list. And looking at his stats, he has 336 special attack, 176 in both defenses, 358 speed, 606 health, and of course with 6-star EX and the EX roll, his stats do increase quite a bit. Opponent tools has been updated, of course, thank you to SDTK as always. And with the 6-star X, of course, he gets 376 in the special attack, far better defenses, HP's solid as well, and the strike gives him over 400 special attack and more HP as well. He does not utilize the physical attack at all, so I kind of wish they would have sacrificed that a bit to make this higher, but hey, whatever. And of course, he still gets higher stats with level 150 as well, so that's nice. He's got good speed, good special attack, solid enough bulk stats, and solid HP. So if you are willing to invest, of course, his stats are still about what I would say to be probably average for the most part at this point. It's kind of crazy that 400 plus special attack is now considered average, but oh well, that's called meta. Anyway, looking at his moves, he's got Night Daze, which is a 4-gauge move, 166 power. Of course, you know, we've had the same thing with Summer End back on his release, right? He has Night Daze, same case there. There's definitely a good powered move for sure, up to 199 power, nearly 200, obviously. Pretty solid power. It's got a 40% chance to lower enemy accuracy, very solid as well. Pretty good. He's got Guard Spec, which applies the stat reduction defense effect to the allied field of play. That's not too bad. I mean, if there's any stages that do, like, mass amounts of debuffing, then of course this can be helpful, but I feel for the most part this is kind of filler. I can't remember his kit too much, but I don't think there's really anything that makes too much utilization of this, directly anyway, but hey, I mean, it's there for if you know that there's going to be a stage that tries to debuff you a lot, right? He's got his Trainer move, My Dark Secret Arts, which applies gauge acceleration, raises his special attack by 4, and raises his crit by 2, so he still does need a crit support to be maximized in the crit department, which is fine, and of course special attack as well. And then his Buddy move, Eerily Captivating Fake Tears, which targets all enemies, and it's a 2-use move only. Activation condition is when the trainer uses any move one time, so that's why you have to use Guard Spec, right? That's kind of why it exists. And deactivation condition, of course, is when the move is used. So the way it works, use his trainer move, use Fake Tears, use Guard Spec, use Fake Tears, right? You still got a Guard Spec left over. The move never misses, it lowers target special attack and special defense by 2, and it lowers Dark rebuff by 1 stat rank. I would say it's definitely worth going for this twice over, and you know, missing out on a few turns of having to, you know, use Night Daze and whatnot. I still think, I do think that is worth it, because you are, of course, debuffing stats, and of course you are also lowering enemy Dark rebuff. I'm not sure, I doubt, personally, that the damage from Night Daze is going to make up the difference of losing rebuff for the rest of battle, but hey, I could be wrong. And also, again, consider it's AoE debuffing and it's AoE rebuff, and that's up to -2 rebuff, which is a 50% extra damage on all dark moves, right? Which is amazing. So, very, very strong for sure. And he's got his passive skills here, which hit, rebuff down, opponent, free moves next 9, applying free moves next to the user when his attack move is successful against an enemy with a lowered type rebuff. Just free gauge, right? He's got good speed, doesn't really need gauge too bad, but of course, he also applies gauge acceleration, but hey, that's for your team, I guess, because he does not need it, clearly. First sync move on opponent's stat ranks down ×2. If the target stats are lowered, the amount of the decrease is doubled the first time the user's sync move targeting the opponent is successful each battle. This effect can only activate once per battle. So basically, the way that this ability works is that Whenever Bryson syncs for the first time in battle, whether it be the first sync, second sync, whatever, it does not matter if your allies sync however many times, as long for this only activates the first time Bryson specifically uses his sync move. This will take any existing debuff on the enemy and it will double it. It's like Neo Champion Leaf's buddy move where she doubles debuffs when attacking an enemy, except this only activates once and of course only on the sync move. So of course, you know, the big thing with this is that it's made to utilize the special attack and special defense debuffs. You can debuff these stats by up to -4, and of course you can debuff accuracy by whatever amount with night days, which will then, of course, when you use the sync move, it will then double those debuffs, making your abilities overall a little bit stronger, and of course, probably empowering your next sync move. So, of course, for example, you have -4 special attack and -4 special defense, and we'll just say, for argument's sake, you have -2 accuracy. That will turn into -6 special defense and special attack and -4 accuracy. So that's very good. Doubling debuffs is definitely very nice. I always love these abilities that have different effects on the same move other than, like, damage or something, like how Roxanne flips stats, how, and of course here how Bryson's able to double enemy debuffs. I always love those type of abilities that they try and utilize on sync moves. I wouldn't mind things if they were like, attack the enemy and enemies hit by the sync move are all left poisoned or something like that. I mean, something like that would, all of those type of abilities are pretty interesting to me, just personally. Are they great? I mean, generally, yeah, but they're not really anything meta-defining, but I still just like them, really. And then they're honor roll too, which raises the chances of different additional lowering stat values with additional effects of the user's moves, which just makes Night Gaze have guaranteed accuracy debuffing, right? 140% is just guaranteed. Duh. So guaranteed accuracy debuffs is nice on his Night Days, and overall he's got a pretty decent kit. He's also got innate Smarty Pants here. The more enemy special defense is lower, the greater the power of this attack, which is a pretty solid multiplier, of course, especially when he's able to debuff special defense with relative ease and double the debuffs on the sync move. There are, of course, caveats to that, right? Like, if we want to take just a look here, you do need the maximum special defense to have the maximum nuke, right? Which does imply that you are going to have to maximize enemy special defense debuffs. The way they intend for you to do that is to use his sync move first, which, of course, will be underpowered from not having it fully activated, and then you'll double the enemy special defense debuffs, which will then, of course, allow your next sync move to be powered up. I don't like that gimmick, or I don't like that ability to where you have to use your sync move first to then power up your next sync move directly, but of course that can also be remedied by any special defense debuffer. Definitely also a very good partner for Sigma-Suit Cyrus, right? With Cyrus's random debuffs with Bad Break 9 here, you can get a lot of random debuffs, and then Bryson can double those debuffs once you are satisfied with that, and then that can empower Cyrus's nuke even further with his power play multiplier, right? So there's some pretty good stuff there for a combination of Cyrus and Brycen-Man. So that is nice for sure. Also consider with the Striker EX roll that this should become AoE. I'm not 100% certain on that, but theoretically it should become AoE. So you get AoE enemy stat debuff doubling. He also has a lucky skill for Discombobulate 4, which I feel for longer battles is not going to be immensely helpful, but this probably could be useful in a Legendary Gauntlet situation for sure. You know, accuracy debuffs are always great in those game modes, well, that game mode, as well as also being useful to activate multipliers, which I feel is going to be helpful in those shorter battles. I feel that this is going to be relatively decent in shorter battles where you're not going to be trying to, not going to be able to maximize his nuke anyway, so the fact that you can maybe debuff accuracy and do that is nice, I guess. Though it does mean you have to debuff enemy with an attacking move, so you're already using Night Days, so it's also a little bit iffy there. So either way, I don't think this lucky skill's bad. I think it's really only useful in the Gauntlet. Otherwise, just, you know, Critical Strike 2, maybe Mind Games, whatever, you know, whatever else you're gonna run with them. This is probably mostly useful in the Gauntlet for early accuracy debuffs and accuracy cheese. Or evasion cheese, rather. So that's nice, I guess. Anyway, I don't think there's too much else to go over with Bryson. He's got solid enough DPS rate, 166 base power. Obviously, does not have any multipliers, so the damage isn't going to be that crazy. 100% in total nuking multipliers isn't going to be that crazy either. It is an AoE sync move, so you can make the excuse that's similar to that of a Striker sync move. So if you are willing to invest in EX roll 1 out of 5 Bryson, then sure, I guess. Though realistically, if you're going to be willing to invest in the EX roll, you're probably also going to candy Bryson to 3 out of 5. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Either way, I mean, he's fine at 3 out of 5. He's got debuffing ability. Again, I do think he could be a very good partner for Sigma Suit Cyrus. Cyrus's big problem is that he wants to do way too much, but of course, having a potential supporting partner alongside Bryson here will just allow Cyrus to be a lot more empowered, especially for the fact that, of course, you're debuffing stats with Bryson, and of course you're lowering the rebuff, which is the biggest aspect here, by up to 2 stat ranks, which you should be doing. That will directly empower Cyrus' sync move. He's got the innate multiplier with Dark Zone. He's got power play here, so that he's going to be getting a pretty good nuke. And again, you've got those double stat debuffs, so maybe a turn order of syncing with Bryson first, doubling enemy stat debuffs, then syncing with Cyrus second once you've got power play maxed out. Could be relatively effective, and of course on top of sleep spam, Cyrus setting Dark Zone is going to be a direct power up to Bryson as well. It could be a solid setup. Though I do think that it's going to be a bit wonky at the very least, because the way that Bryson's turn order works is, again, trainer move, captivating tears, guard spec, and then you're at your sync move, right? So you've got to use a support EX, or you've got to use an alternate nuke, because you're not ready to use Bryson's sync move because your stats are not, the debuffs are not efficient enough yet. So you do have to kind of work around that and figure that play out. Of course, you could bring someone who could debuff the stats for you. You could just sync early and deal with the lack of stat debuffs if you really wanted to. It really is just very dependent. I mean, you could go for the sync move with Bryson anyway, because they're at -2, it'll go to -4, and then of course you could debuff them again, but also maybe you want to consider you may want more accuracy debuffs, or again, you may want to deal with other partners potentially debuffing stats as well, and you want to double those stat debuffs. It's really just up to how you want to play. If you are trying to sync with Bryson first, of course, again, you'll get that -4 on the special attack and special defense, and then you can use fake tears again since you'll have 1 use left, and that'll leave you at -6. You'll probably be fine, right? But just, again, consider the potential caveats of that, and however your team order may work. I don't think it's that, I really do not think it's bad, but of course there are always going to be some gimmicks like that. Also, this has it listed as no gauge, but this has it listed as 1 gauge. I don't know which it is. Either way, it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to just go ahead and assume it's no gauge, but I'm not 100% sure now. Anyway, whatever. And also, again, it takes about 4 turns for him to max out his debuffs and max out the rebuff, so that is at least 4 turns that you are waiting to be able to start actually doing damage with him. If that's a bad thing to you, then just keep that in mind. Either way, Bryson does have some pretty solid synergy, at least at 1 out of 5 with quite a few other dark units. He's going to be a direct power-up, of course, to Marnie, right? 50%. Dark with the dark rebuff is going to be extremely helpful. They both do special damage. He's also got the special defense debuffs as well, so Marty's going to be getting a really solid buff from Bryson specifically. So Akari, right, is a physical attacker. She doesn't benefit as much, but still from the rebuff, literally any dark character benefits a lot. But I feel that the most notable beneficiaries are probably Marnie, Summer N, and Sigma Suit Cyrus, and also being a special attacker, but them also both being Zoroark. Does that matter? No, but also N does have the Snarl here and Devastation, so you're able to activate Devastation and Obscuring Sync with N because of Bryson, right? So there is some pretty good synergy there. Also, unironically, feel like, is N sync move better? I don't know. No, Bryson's better because of the Tech EX, right? But still, I mean, they have relatively comparable sync moves, surprisingly. But whatever, that's fine. So either way, yeah, Bryson's definitely not a bad partner. Also, he's able to do a special attack, which helps out Karen a lot. And again, the rebuff. So very solid dark partner in general. Definitely nothing bad for sure. I guess we'll look at the grid since I've been stalling around it a little bit too long. 2 out of 5, he gets Quick Cure, Natural Remedy, just general solid abilities, and the Gauntlet and pretty much nowhere else, but I mean, it's fine. Trip up 9 for guaranteed speed debuffs, so he can do accuracy, speed, special attack, and special defense debuffing, which is all really good, but of course you've got to find a reason to actually debuff speed, which not many characters you're going to be partnering him up with do. I mean, again, it's just really activating power play for Cyrus. No one else here really wants speed debuffs. No one here has Archer has Cakewalk and wants speed debuffs, but like, there you go. He already does all that. Very fine by himself. You don't need Bryson to do it. Fail forward for some gauge charging. Maybe helpful in the Gauntlet, I would say. Of course, he gets the pre-moves next and whatnot, but that's only for 2 bars because of rebuff resetting. So, I mean, fail forward could be a good fallback after that. No pun intended. Guard Spec barricaded, again, just buffing special defense. He doesn't need these buffs, really. They're not that useful for him, being a mainly damage-dealing focused unit with some utility on the side. He doesn't really need this, but again, just Gauntlet stuff. Gobsmack, it's Gauntlet stuff. All hit and heal, it's Gauntlet. This is all Gauntlet stuff. So if you're a big Gauntlet fan, I mean, these are decent Gauntlet abilities. Are they great for him? I don't know. I'm not too big on the Gauntlet, but I mean, that's pretty much all it is. Grand Entry 2, maxing out special attack. Really, you're probably not going to pick this up. Trying to move Critical Eye as well, maxing out the crit for his trainer move, because again, you do need that crit support. This isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, most supports come equipped with at least +1 crit buffing anyway, so it's not that big of a deal for him to need to pick up Critical Eye. I'd just rather not go to this side at all and just focus on all of this other stuff. Trying to move no stat up on field 9, applying the no stat increase effect on the opponent field of play when his trainer move is successful. Of course, that's good for preventing enemies from buffing their stats so that his stat debuffs are not mitigated before using his sync move. So now that you can deal with enemies that have some sort of trainer moves like the X items and whatnot that allow them to buff their stats, he can mitigate that pretty much entirely. Of course, this does not mitigate like entry stats like pinpoint entry, which again, needing accuracy debuffs, that does kind of screw him over a little bit, but still, it's not really too bad yet. Enemy stat increases on entry is not that big of a deal yet, but I mean, it definitely could be in the future. So this is nice to have at the very least for turn 1. So that's cool. He's got Mind Boggler as well, decreasing enemy special defense when attacking a flinching, confused, or trapped opponent. This is basically why you would pick up Gobsmack, because he does not have any other way of setting any of those status changes himself. So you'd have to probably rely on someone like Marnie to flinch, or Sydney for confusion if you want to run them together, or whoever else that can do those random status changes in order to be able to activate Mind Boggler. But again, also consider he debuffs special defense himself. His whole gimmick is doubling stat debuffs. Hopefully you'll never need this, but of course there is always the chance that the enemy buffs their stats back, so you may want to debuff them again, because of course he does want max special defense debuffs to activate the entirety of Smarty Pants. He's got Sync Thinker 9 for special moves next after using his Sync move. Just a little bit of extra power for Night Days because he could use it. He's got Satisfied Snicker 9 and Overpower as well. Overpower for 30% DPS multipliers for Night Days. Actual power for this move is definitely nice to have. He's also got Satisfied Snicker 9, as stated, debuffing enemy special attack when attacking the enemy. Same case as Mind Boggler, except of course Mind Boggler requires a status change, which is its own set of problems. But realistically, again, you're only utilizing this if the enemies are buffing their stats back, which hopefully they just don't. But also, he does not care to debuff any special attack that much, realistically speaking. I think this is good for the Gauntlet, as stated ad nauseum. But I mean, realistically speaking, I don't see the necessity in this pretty much outside of that. Also, Mind Boggler as well. It's good in the Gauntlet because you're generally going to pick up Gobsmack anyway, probably. Yeah. And then he's got Obscuring Sync 5 for a 50% Sync Nuke multiplier. That's mostly it. If I'm looking at this guy, off the top of my head, he is stupidly reminiscent of Summer right? Like, Summer has a 30% multiplier for his DPS here with Night Days, right? No, he's actually got 60% multiplier, so he's actually doing better DPS. Okay, crazy. He's got the same exact total multipliers, except Bryson has Smarty Pants and has Devastation. They've got the exact same 50% multiplier with Obscuring Sync, which only needs at least -1 on the enemy accuracy, so you don't have to actually maximize enemy accuracy debuffs, which is nice for sure, and probably getting his sync maximized by the second sync move. So I'd say that the turn order for him to sync is probably support, Bryson, and then if you're going to run Cyrus, probably Cyrus, and then, or whoever else. Otherwise, you could probably just keep syncing with Bryson, realistically. Either way, Bryson, I would say, is definitely your second sync move, because that'll give him enough time to be able to maximize enemy debuffs, and then also being able to get the accuracy debuffs, so you can just have Obscuring Sync 5 activated, and have everything else activated, right? The thing with Bryson that I think a lot of people are noticing, which is fair enough, is that he only has 150% in sync multipliers despite being a tech character. Most tech characters nowadays at least come equipped with like 200% at minimum in multipliers. So Bryson having only 150% is a little odd at the very least, and definitely it could be a hindrance. Like if you want to look at Jacques here, a Pokefair, he's got 120% multipliers from Rising Tide here, 120% from Rising Tide here. Right? I mean, he's got the multipliers and plus the offensive stat. We look at Dahlia, right? She's got the 100% multiplier here. She's got the 100% multiplier here, right? 200% in total multipliers. Petey has the exact same amount of multipliers. Speed is race, static shock. Catherine actually has more multipliers. She's got the innate of having evasion debuffs, and she has pecking order in her passive skills here. Obviously, the offensive stat is lower, but again, that's just something to consider, is that Bryson has quite low multipliers for being a tech character, which I don't think is that bad, because despite the fact that he is a tech as a role, I think that Bryson is more of a striker with tech-based abilities more than anything, which, again, may not make too much sense, but it's like, I feel that Bryson's big thing is that he's able to do big damage, AoE damage with the Striker EX role, but then he also has the abilities to like debuff enemy stats and double enemy debuffs, which is reminiscent of a tech. I feel like Bryson is a striker first and foremost, despite the fact that he has a tech role and his secondary role is a striker. I feel like if those were swapped, a lot of opinions would be different, but also that would consider that he probably wouldn't have the innate of Smarty Pants, and that would have to go somewhere in the grid, which I'd rather just not. Either way, though, I don't think it's that bad. 150% multipliers. I would definitely say he needs the striker. Okay, I don't know about needs, but I would say he really does want the Striker EX role, because that does, or it should, double all enemy stat debuffs, which is going to be extremely helpful for sure. And of course, generally just making your sync move AoE is good in general. So I do think that it is worth it to try and give him the EX role. Despite the fact that he also does have partners like Neo Champion Marnie, which are very good AoE damage dealers. But really, if you think about it, Marnie's pretty much the only one, other than like other like striker nukers like Karen and whatnot. His only other partners for AoE damage is, let's see, Marnie, Sydney's Brutal Swing, Brutal Swing from the Master Rail, right? I mean, all of his partners are pretty much single target focused, aside from Marnie. So I still think that his of having the EX role here and being able to double enemy stat debuffs on the sync move is a little bit more valuable to have than anything else, or than like not investing into him, just personally. Again, I could be wrong about that for sure. And of course, it does allow for better synergy into your single target tech nuke that you may use after Bryson's, right? Like, again, you got your support EX of whoever you're bringing as a support. You've got Bryson's sync move himself for those double debuffs. He's good. He uses his nuke. All the enemy stats are debuffed appropriately. And then again, you may want to chain that into Signasuit Cyrus, who can then put out a better nuke with his higher offensive stat and his overall better multipliers as well. 220% in total multipliers here, being able to hit the enemy with a nuke that has now been fully maximized by Bryson's doubling of enemy stat debuffs. I feel that synergy works out quite well, and of course, at the end of the day, you can still sync nuke with Bryson, even post second sync. That's kind of the point of most strikers and techs, is to be able to keep using their sync moves to be able to do good damage, because of course, like, I think I'm pretty sure he shares total multipliers with Akari, right? Which, looking at it, her stats are about the same as his, right? She's got Haymaker, she's got Dark Zone, Power Up, right? So that's 150% multipliers there. You got the single target with Archer, which again is still good, similar to that of Cyrus. Zinnia single target, again, similar to that of Cyrus in the mechanics. And his total multipliers is 150%, and he's got worse offensive stats. Or actually, he's got actually better offensive stats, but he does not have the 355 base power sync nuke. Actually, does he? Actually, he might. Or, sorry. 380 base power sync move. Yeah. We look at N, he's got 350 power. Actually, yeah, N might actually just straight up hit harder. I don't know. I don't know how much of the difference that 30 base power sync nuke makes, so correct me if I'm wrong. Also, do consider you'll probably run Critical Strike to his lucky skill, so he's got a few more multipliers there. Either way, I think Bryson functions well enough. I feel like he functions very well as a striker more than a tech, but still, I don't think that's exactly a hindrance. I think that's more of an observation. Either way, for looking at what you should bring for Bryson, I don't think Satisfied Snicker is necessary, especially because he doesn't utilize special. Okay, he utilizes Overpower. My bad. I don't think he doesn't really use it for his like nuke or anything. Special tech debuffs, I mean. I don't think he needs Thinker. I don't think he needs Gobsmack. Something like this is probably what I would probably pick up. That's redundant. With -4 energy, of course, just invest the extra grid energy. Otherwise, you're probably just sacrificing the sync node here and maybe picking this up. Of course, you may not care for the enemy stat up field, but of course, that's literally the cheapest way to get to a second sync node here. So you're either sacrificing the sync node and picking this up, and not picking this up rather, or maybe you just go for Sync Thinker, I guess. You could go for Sync Thinker if you really wanted to. You could go for Satisfied Snicker if you want to maximize those special tech debuffs as soon as possible to maximize Night Day's damage. You can go really however you want. It doesn't matter that much. At the end of the day, I think that the way Bryson's going to work, no matter really what grid you pick, I think Satisfied Snicker and Mind Boggler are mostly for the Gauntlet, but they can be utilized elsewhere. I think that the biggest way that I think it's going to be minimal for the most part in how you run Bryson, whether you run him with things like Satisfied Snicker and Mind Boggler, or if you maybe just run him full nuke like I'm opting to here. Also, the fact Trip Up's there is really annoying because he really does not care about having Trip Up, but whatever. I don't think it matters too much in the end. Because at the end of the day, Bryson's going to be using his sync move second post, support EX, post other sync move EX, whatever, doesn't matter. He's going to be using it second, which at that point, after using that second sync move, all of the multipliers should be activated. Overpower should be fully activated. Obscuring sync should definitely be activated. And he should, of course, have Smarty Pants maximized. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to have his multipliers in total maximized by post sync number 2, so he's gonna be waiting until that point for the most part anyway. I don't think it makes much of a difference if you pick up things like Mind Boggler or Satisfied Snicker in order to try and power up Overpower or Smarty Pants. I don't think it matters in the end for the most part. It's still going to be activated pretty much the same time. It's not going to make a big difference. And of course, again, running the full sync does allow you to get both sync nodes. It allows you to not sacrifice things like Obscuring Sync or Overpower in order to pick up these debuffing nodes and other things as well. Or potentially hinder team building again, because maybe you don't want to pick up Godsmack for Mind Boggler. Maybe you want to bring again, Flincher, Confuser, or a Trapper. Whatever that may be. Like, Sydney's got Confusion, Marnie's got Flinch. Marnie's going to be a good partner for him either way. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about Bryson for the most part. A little bit weird, but hey, still good, definitely. There's another update. Cool. Thank you, STDK. Does he change this? Nope, did not. Either way, whatever. Great partner for Marnie, great partner for Cygnus Cyrus, great partner for Summer N, and overall a good partner for most dark types in general. Good partner for Karen, as well as probably just any dark type, like Xenia benefits quite a bit, Akari benefits a good bit, Archer benefits a good bit, high trip up 9, and really, again, Bryson's just a good source of damage, pretty decent nuke, pretty good debuffer, and the dark rebuff is an amazing thing. So, yeah, I definitely think he's being a little bit underrated, but whatever, I digress. I'll see y'all later. I hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know if you're going to be signing for Brycen-Man down in the comments below. Definitely a very solid dark character, and overall a solid sync pair in the game in general. And yeah, I'll see you all later.